What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about The Outer Worlds 2, and arguably the biggest thing that came from this game. You don't love to see this being the the main thing, the main takeaway. But you know what? This happened actually a few times with the Xbox show. We found out like the Gears of War beta is actually this upcoming weekend, the next 2 weekends, if you pre-order or if you have Game Pass Ultimate. And it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know that. Wish they would have said that in the show. Outer Worlds 2. Look, they showed a trailer, a gameplay trailer during the show, and then they did, of course, the specific, full direct to The Outer Worlds 2. And look, the game looks solid. I'm not here to tell you don't buy it. I'm actually here to tell you do what you want, with your money. I always try to push that on this channel. If you want to get it, get it. If you don't. You can get it on Game Pass. That's probably, in fact, that is actually what I'm going to do. Save a little bit of money there, and that's the thing, okay? Saving a little bit of money. It might not be a little bit because it comes out after the show ends, I believe, or maybe during the full direct, but it came after the Xbox showcase, right? That this is our next $80 game, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks, Nintendo. You did it. Not only have you priced Mario Kart World at $80, again, now if you got the bundle for Mario Kart, it was only $50. That's actually what I did, but this is the next game. So, I mean, look, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen for two different reasons, right? Number one, when a company goes for it, others will follow, right? This industry is full of followers generally, right? And they'll just follow the first, company that makes a move. So in this case, the move maker was Nintendo. They raised the price of a lot of accessories, a lot of, kind of almost behind the scenes, like smaller-ish things. And then, of course, they're going with the, hey, we're going to price things how we feel they should be priced, right? Some games are worth $70. Some games are actually worth $80. And so, okay, that's number one. Once Nintendo does that, other people are going to do it, right? However, number two, I mean, this was like they already showed us their hand, right? Microsoft specifically was the second company. They get out in front of the tariffs or whatever, and they say, hey, we're raising everything. The Series X has never been more expensive. And you hate to hear it because you're 5 years in, and you should never be saying that, but here we are, right? So the consoles have never been more. The controllers have never been more. Pay more than you ever have before. And while you're at it, we're raising game prices as well. And we knew that game prices were going to raise sometime around the fall, right? That they were going to kind of go into it into 2026. And, when Phil Spencer talked about next year, and I do think it's going to be a great year for Xbox, okay? Fable, Forza, Gears E-Day, and I do believe he's teasing Halo 1 remake or remaster. Awesome. That's an incredible lineup. I don't actually think it gets better than that, okay? With that being said, all four of those games are most likely $80, okay? And this game is $80. Now, okay, specifically for Outer Worlds, like I said earlier, the game looks solid. It's a game that I am interested in. I wouldn't put it, like, I will actually do a ranking of all the games I'm interested in the fall. I'm going to do that video in a few weeks, but I wouldn't put it in my top 10, but it's definitely there. Like, I definitely want it. And, Outer Worlds 1 I thought was solid. I never actually made it all the way through, and my plan was to just replay and play all the way through the first game leading into the second game. Second game looks solid. I don't know how many more times I have to say it to myself in these videos, but $80. Is this, here's what I'll say specifically to this. Is this really the game to test it on, though? Like, it's a tough thing because I do think actually Xbox has had a really good year so far. They've really nailed it. But when you look towards the next 6 months, okay, I'm not saying like we're not bringing PlayStation into this, okay? I want to get ahead of the console warriors out there. But when it comes to Xbox specifically, I think their strongest half was the first half, okay, of the year. Even when it comes to like games that are third party releasing on Game Pass, they just don't have as many, and they're not as high impact. You got a few, but generally, okay, when it comes to your own studios, your only major thing, right, because you got Indie and you got Grounded 2 is end of July, right, but your main thing for the fall is The Outer Worlds, hence why it was the like game they're gonna extra show off, right, like that was the whole plan. So that's the game. That's the game that really, I don't think it needs to carry them. I don't think we need to put that on The Outer Worlds 2. But when it comes to the fall, that's what they got, right? That's their big game. And so, it doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, I guess, like if if you're going into this variable pricing, Outer Worlds 2 happens to like fall in a very bad time for that. But that's the thing, I don't think Outer Worlds is the game to test this on. To be honest with you, Fable is a better game to test this on. And I don't think think that's a good idea either. That's a game that I'm very excited for, very hyped for, but it's very unproven. And even the studio, obviously kind of switching gears, no pun intended, to do something like Fable, right? It's like, is there really a good time to raise any game to $80? I guess that's what I'm kind of dancing around. The answer is no. Really, you can make a very strong argument against any game in the history of the next 5 years. Should it be 80? And most times you might walk away saying no, right? You could say no to Mario Kart. You could say no to Outer Worlds. It's tough because, well, it's tough, but yet again, they're the ones who do it to themselves, right? They announce that the prices are going up, and then, okay, you have to put it out on a game. What's the first game that you're going to have this $80 price tag to, right? That's the thing. And it's for Nintendo, it was Mario Kart. That's got a lot of value to me. Even if you don't like it, which I don't like it, but Mario Kart World, I actually play it all day today. Really good game. Not here to review it, but, it's got a lot of meat. I think it's obviously going to be around for the entirety of the Switch, too. Can you rationalize it for Mario Kart? I think you have a much easier time doing that than you have the Outer Worlds. Again, Fable, Gears of War, E-Day, that's a huge game. Maybe $80 looks better on that. Again, does it look good on anything? No. It's like a bad outfit. It doesn't look, no matter what you do. But I just think Outer Worlds is not the game to do that to. And what you're really doing, okay, to end the video, what does it really mean? I think you're just going to destroy sales. Maybe more than, I don't know how it would have done anyway, and there's really no way of comparing that now, right? But because it's on Game Pass already, right? That's how I'm going to get it. That's how I assume a lot of people are going to get it. It kind of goes back to the age-old thing of okay, well, how many people get on Game Pass versus, buying it. And sometimes it's far, far more. Sometimes it's more 50-50, whatever the case, case-by-case basis, right? For a game like this, I don't know, $80, and it comes out kind of across the board. Are you expecting a lot of people on PlayStation to buy this game? Because $80 might be too much, right? You expecting people to buy it on Xbox because maybe they weren't already? There's no real way of knowing that, but maybe they weren't already, but maybe they're definitely not going to now, right? So it's a tough situation, and I think, it pushes people to Game Pass. I saw a lot of that today, that maybe this was almost like a plan. You raise prices to just continue to get people to say, hey, Game Pass is just factually, and it is, it's a lot of money. It's not for everybody because a lot of the games on there are kind of broad genres, and people maybe just aren't into that. So you kind of feel like you're wasting money every month, and you're not really, there's no specific game for you. So it has its negatives, and it has, I think, people that wouldn't get into it. But factually at this point, it's $20 a month for Ultimate, and then you can play all the games. And this is how I rationalize, at least to myself, in October or whenever, you can play any of these games, and you can also play the Outer Worlds, right? Versus spending $80 to just play the Outer Worlds. I'll spend $60 less and play. You don't own it. That's a big thing, especially for being a preservationist as I am. I don't want to go over the pros and cons of Game Pass, but I do think it kind of leads you there, right? Almost purposely, as if they're kind of planning it out, where it's if we kind of push people to Game Pass, who cares what we have the price be, right? The issue is, I think Game Pass is going to go up as well. And I honestly feel Game Pass might go up in the fall. There's been a lot of talk about that, so we'll see if that happens. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.